Congratulations. I'm sorry I couldn't attend that meeting that you were nominated. I'm very happy to be attending today.
Well, thank you.
And with all that too, good evening, committee members. It's been quite a bit, but it is now 6 p.m. and I am very happy to confirm that we do have quorum. So before I begin, Madam Chair, I will just quickly run down that we are currently missing Councillor Bohm, Councillor Oosterhoff, and Charles Foreman. And joining us from staff this evening is Elizabeth Fawcett, the committee clerk. She is our meeting host, and Tracy Snow, the Rural Economic and Community Development Manager, along with myself, the committee clerk for this meeting. There are currently no members of the public in the public viewing gallery. With all that, I'm happy to turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Sullivan. All right, I shall call this meeting to order. And first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, which you would have received in your package sent by email on Friday. May I have someone move approval of the agenda? Sorry, I'm just looking here. Thank you, John. Sorry, I had to move by John, seconded, please. Seconded by Cameron Gunn. All those in favor? Passed. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes. Again, I trust you've had time to review them that were sent on Friday of last week. Are there any questions arising out of the minutes? May I have someone move that the minutes of the Rural Advisory Committee meeting held Monday, May 2nd, 2002 be approved? John Warnham, seconder. Cameron, any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, and that's passed. So I can see the three of you. Thank you very much. And alternatively, if you want to use your raise hand button, it's centered on the bottom of your Zoom screen if you want to use that at any point in time. Item number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there anyone who has anything to declare at this point in time? Not seeing none, moving across. Okay. Very good. No issues of pecuniary interest on behalf of anyone. So we'll move on to delegations. Clerk Sullivan, I don't see any delegations. Am I missing something?
There are no delegations this evening.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to briefings. And we have Tracy Snow, the manager of the Rural Economic and Community Development, who's going to be speaking. Very much looking forward to this. And there she is, camera on. Hi, Tracy, welcome. And okay, I'm sure you've got lots to share for the first couple of quarters, Q1, Q2. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so before we start the PowerPoint, I just wanted to tell you how wonderful this is that I'm finally getting to talk to you and be part of this conversation. Allison, you and I have spoken before. John, you and I have spoken before. And, you know, my apologies. Cameron, we haven't literally spoken face-to-face before, but that has to happen as well. So my role tonight is to update you on how everything has been happening and what has been going on since I started in December, and all of the great progress that we've come across and projects that we're doing, and looking forward to your feedback after. So thank you so much for this. So please go ahead on the PowerPoint. So as you all know, my role started in December of 2021. I apologize. I think the first meeting was December 8th when you guys had your meeting in December, and I wasn't on the agenda and I wasn't able to speak, and that's okay. So here I am today. I'm going to review the goals and the strategy objectives just to reaffirm everything that's been happening and what your goals have been and what council's goals have been as well, and what we're doing to accommodate that. Talk about connecting with departments, community partners, talk about the project goals for 2022, and then the resources and funding and the people that I've been working with to help support this. Please, next slide. So sorry, my apologies. I have you on the right side, which means I can't see the slide. So just one second, please. I apologize. Okay, there we go. So just to go back to the Kingston Rural Strategy and the components, it's been quite a while since we had spoken, quite a while probably since you had been speaking to everybody about the rural strategy components. So I'm going to just go back to the strategy components, and then talk about the things that have been happening. So there were 2 components, 7 themes, 15 recommendations on the new Kingston economic development strategy for the rural area. Development opportunities was component 1, enablers was component 2. So agricultural opportunities, tourism opportunities, Hamlet-led development, rural cluster development. When I got hired, so I've worked with Craig Desjardins as the head of our department for strategy, innovation, and partnerships I've known him for about 14 years. And I feel really lucky to be working back in that department again. When I was given the responsibilities of the rural strategy and they handed me, okay, so here are all the things that you need to be doing and all of the work that has to be done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's, 10, 15 years in the making of discussions and opportunities and things that needed to be happening. And I feel so blessed that I get to be that person and that department that, we can now start working together and start pushing that out and making that rural strategy happen. Supporting rural communities. My background is rural economic development. I had 12 years with Lennox-Stanton County as a rural economic development officer, senior officer for them, and really excited to be making some serious moves to support rural strategy and helping you guys. Component 2, enablers. So project selection and approval. I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Review of funding envelopes. So we'll talk about that as well. We have Troy in our department that helps with funding and grants. And then identifying alternative servicing options. So I actually have somebody supporting me to help do some investigations on that and look at what that could look like. But that's a longer term strategy and longer term plans, but I'll definitely be talking to you about that as well. Next slide, please. So recommendation number 1 was agricultural development, attracting new farmers, awareness of farms. So we have 2 or 3 projects that have been talking about awareness of farms and some of that strategy. Community training farms project. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. So we were awarded by the province of Ontario through the Skills Development Fund, almost $250,000, probably in April or May of this year. And that money was put towards a community training firms project. We have coordinated with St. Lawrence College and also with Loving Spoonful and ourselves. And we are putting together an on-farm training program that's actually helping with, and the other partner is also, Corrections Canada. So Corrections Canada has gratefully given us a parcel of land at the corner of Days and Front. And it's right above the community farms, the community gardens, I guess. Right above that, it's about 4 or 5 acres above that. We're doing training for 25 to 30 participants on-farm training. St. Lawrence College is then supporting us in trades training, so carpentry, electrical, in November and December. And then the goal is in January, February, and March that we're going to take these 25 to 30 participants and then we're going to have them get jobs within the farming community. So Loving Spoonful is the acting operating manager. Ayla Fenton had hired somebody for this project specifically to be the on-farm training manager. We have had a number of calls from farmers in the area already wanting these participants to be employed by them late fall, early winter. And so we're feeling very encouraged that this is a phenomenal program, not only to support local farms and their employment needs, but also to support agriculture and to really showcase that we're here to support agriculture and its demands. Again, this is a skills development fund, so it's all about training and education to help support employees in the agricultural environment and help support farming in the agricultural environment. The next piece, Open Farms Tour. So for the first time, we have partnered with the County of Frontenac to work on their open farms. And I'm sure many of you have heard about open farms before. It's about a 5 or 6 year event that they've done every first or second week of September. This year it's September 10th and September 11th. Frontenac County and ourselves have partnered together to work collaboratively in open farms and now call it Open Farms Frontenac and Kingston. It used to be called Open Farms Frontenac. We've encouraged our local farmers in the city of Kingston and rural Kingston to participate. We have 2 or 3 right now that are participating. Frontenac County has been gracious in still organizing the event and supporting the event. This is a trial year for us to see how things are working out and how this partnership is looking. It's been phenomenal so far. Our office at the City of Kingston is supporting on the ticketing piece. So we're registering participants. So people that want to go visit the farms on this weekend and do tours, we have a registration piece that the County of Frontenac is working on and helping work with us. We have a program at the City of Kingston that we're helping in terms of that registration. We're doing a lot of marketing together collaboratively with them, and also so is Tourism Kingston in working alongside to support this event. And we are really excited that this is the first event of its kind to really help kind of work towards regional partnerships in opportunities for agriculture. And I'm so sorry, it really bothers me that I can't see you guys when I'm talking. So I'm just going to expand this a little bit further. Okay. There we go. Okay. The next piece is encouraging local food consumption in terms of the recommendations. So Open Farms Harvest. So we have Open Farms, which is on September 10th and 11th. And then we decided, so City of Kingston thought, you know what, we need to have a celebration of farming harvest, agricultural harvest, togethership in terms of food, local chefs, education, big one, like education about what our local farms are doing. How do we work together with our local farms, local food, and show people within our community, our residents, how local food is so important to, you know, to what we do and to their economy and to themselves in terms of eating and in terms of celebrations. So we are having an Open Farms Harvest, first ever event on Sunday, October 2nd. We'll send you more information. I'm just literally in the midst of putting all together this information. Tourism Kingston has been kind enough to support us with a consultant who's done events before. So the event coordinator is, her name is Natalie from Golden Fife. She's done King's Delicious, Count Delicious. She's done events in Toronto. She's done amazing events in Kelowna and Western Canada and BC, events in New York City. So Tourism Kingston is supporting us by allowing her to have services so that we can work together with her to make this Open Farms Harvest event happen. The Open Farms Harvest is going to happen at City Hall. So it's going to happen at City Hall and Memorial Hall, and it's also going to be this whole open concept of City Hall, Memorial Hall that opens up into Market Square, and we're going to make a farmers market in Market Square. So it's about education, food, collaboration, local farms, local chefs, and we're going to have the whole Market Square and City Hall open as a venue for 100 to 150 participants. We're hoping at least 100 to celebrate harvest, to do an education in terms of what's happening with our local food. And I'm just pulling up one quick thing, my apologies. Yeah, and so in terms of, it's all about food strategy and in touching upon council objectives and the objectives, of course, of the rural strategy as well. The second piece on encouraging local food consumption is the Kingston Public Market. So in conjunction with Rec and Leisure, I've been fortunate enough to be working with them on some of the events. Rec and Leisure have been managing the Kingston Public Market, and I think all of you know, so Market Square is defined as the Kingston Public Market right now because we can't define ourselves as a farmer's market because of the designation. So we do not have 51% of the vendors are local farms, and that's been quite a while. So we actually have an RFP. So Rec and Leisure of our department in Kingston has an RFP going out. We're hoping in the next week that's going to be looking for an operator to help support us in managing the Kingston Public Market. Right now, City of Kingston manages that. We're looking at having an operator contracted, not an employee, not internally, an operator contracted to support us with the development of the Kingston Public Market. Our goal is to revise the designation to a Kingston farmers market, where we reach that 51% vendor participation in terms of local farms. I've been very gratefully asked to be overseeing that whole project. And so we're really excited to say that our goal for 2023 is to look at Market Square, redevelop it as a Kingston farmers market, but then look at also Market Square as a venue of opportunity for food, local food, food security, sharing events, food events. We're just really, we haven't done any definition in terms of what that looks like yet until we see what that operator is, but we are so excited and looking for your feedback, please, on what the transformation of Market Square can look like. And I will be overseeing that project for 2023 with an operator that we're going to contract out. The other piece is fostering innovation in farming. Since this PowerPoint presentation and since the agenda, and I think a few of you may be aware of this already, I'm really sad to say that the abattoir project that I've been working on for the past two and a half years with Thorpe Farms it's stopped. He hasn't received the funding when he did his funding launch in the spring and summer. He hasn't received the funding that he thought he was going to receive. And he has publicly announced, so his name's Corey Priest from Thorpe Farms. He has publicly announced that he's not able to open up a new processing facility, abattoir, in Napanee. It was supposed to be a federal facility, both white meat, red meat. I have been working with him very closely, as one of our committee members has as well, for the past few years, and working very hard on this, and the funding just didn't come through to support the project. I'm telling you though, I am still working very closely with Lennox-Anton County, because I used to work there, and still working very closely with our city departments, and still working very closely with our regional offices and OMAFRA to see if we can actually make this happen. So I'm not prepared to let this lie. I worked really hard with Corey and all of OMAFRA and federal partners and provincial partners to see if we can make this happen. And we're doing everything we can to see if we can still keep this sustained and make this happen some other way. And I'm of course looking for your feedback on that as well. The second piece is, and I'm sorry, I can't really get into the details from a confidentiality standpoint, but we have an opportunity from a production standpoint on a really innovative product with some local farms. One of the farms is in Kingston, and one of the farms is in Lennox-Anton County. And they're working together to see about some really innovative product offering. I will let you know more as I know more, but unfortunately at this point, I can't, but I just wanted you to know that there are things happening and conversations happening to make some new opportunities happening within the city of Kingston and our rural communities. The other piece is looking for niche and value-added food production opportunities. Really great project. So background, we have commercial kitchen opportunities. We have 2 or 3 right now in the city of Kingston. We have quite a number in rural, in our rural areas, Seth Frontenac and Frontenac as well. The challenge is that we have commercial kitchens available. Our food producers, our local residents, our farmers, they don't know what that could look like in terms of a business model. So why would we have, what can I do with a commercial kitchen? What is it that so we have a commercial kitchen, I grow food. What is that related? How does that relate to itself? I have businesses, retail businesses calling me saying, how do I find more local food? How do I find more local made food? I have people calling me saying, I want to make food, but I don't know what that looks like. What does that look like? Is it a business? Are there processes? What's the province model? What is the KFLNA model? How does this look like? About 7 or 8 years ago, I held, in Lennox-Anton County, I had held a commercial kitchen project initiative there. We pulled together a day of training with OMAFRA, so the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Farming, Rural Affairs, KFLNA, and of course a business support piece on my end. And we pulled together a whole day of training to showcase what commercial kitchens are and why it's important to local food, why it's important to food security, why it's important to smaller farms who are looking to diversify what they do and support them in growing their business in other ways that they didn't even imagine possible. So really excited to say that we have partnered with OMAFRA, working with KFLNA right now. So we're still having discussions with them about getting together for a meeting, but OMAFRA has agreed already that we're going to have a training day in the beginning of November, and I'll absolutely send you more information about that. So we're going to have a training day at the beginning of November, whole day of training about what does making food look like? What does a commercial kitchen mean to you? What does, making food look like in terms of the business that you're thinking of? What about residents who are thinking of making food, don't have access? Maybe they can be working with farmers about, hey, can you grow this and this and this spring? Because I'm thinking that I'd like to make some food and sell it commercially, to our community businesses. So I'm working on developing a whole piece, marketing collateral on what our commercial kitchen availability is, marketing collateral on what it looks like, to be making food in a commercial kitchen, and then having a day of training at the beginning of November with OMAFRA, with KFLNA, with ourselves, and talking about entrepreneurship, regulations, packaging, labeling, like everything they need to know. So that's another project that I've been working on as well. And it's going really well. It's going, as far as I know, fairly smoothly right now, and looking again for your thoughts and guidance on that. So next slide, please. Okay, so recommendation, Hamlet development, supporting Hamlet-based development. So I want to say very clearly the Hamlet-led development piece is a longer term vision in the rural strategy, much longer term vision. So I'm thinking, I'm working with real estate, I'm working with planning, working with Kingston economic development. So looking at different ways in terms of what that Hamlet-led development means, working with developers. I have somebody on staff right now that's helping look at provincial mandates and our municipal mandates in terms of what does development look like? What does rural development look like? What are our limitations and our capacities at the provincial level? What are our limitations and capacities at the municipal level to support rural development, Hamlet development? So Hamlet development to me, and I think to the strategy means, let me give you an example. So I used to live in Tamworth. It's a little community northwest of Kingston. And Tamworth has grocery store, ice rink, gas stations, liquor store, library. It has a hardware store. It had kind of everything that you needed. 100 years ago, Tamworth was this encompassing little community that actually was the hub of a paper mill, like a mill. And so the river, the Salmon River that ran through Tamworth would actually run wood through this mill that was in Tamworth, and then they would ship it in a train station in Aaronsville, which is like two minutes away from Tamworth. And they would ship that wood and the processing through the train station on a train. And then that's how that town survived. Of course, cities evolved, communities evolved, Napanee grew, Kingston grew, Belleville grew, Brockville grew, like it all grew. And so our hamlets became smaller because people started being drawn more to the city. We're not looking to build little mini cities in rural Kingston, but what we're looking at doing is seeing what we have in terms of hamlets and helping expand those opportunities within those hamlets, right? So helping those existing four corners in little communities grow and expand in those little communities to help development. So we can help with commercial development, we can help with, retail development, we can help them build maybe little tiny communities and little streets around those little existing hamlets that we currently have. We are not looking to push City of Kingston out. We are looking to support our rural communities and support those businesses in those rural communities to make them successful, period. That's it. There are some challenges because the provincial government has mandates in place in terms of what that growth looks like. We have bylaws in place that regulate what those look like. We also have, of course, servicing water, hydro, all of that are also, how do we look at this? What do we do? So I have somebody working with me right now to look at servicing options in other communities, look at servicing options in Ontario, across Canada, looking what the provincial and our municipal mandates are to see what that could be. I'm telling it is a longer term project, but I am already having discussions with real estate planning and the province to see what does this look like and how do we make this happen from a longer term vision. I know from the strategy standpoint, it was also a longer term vision, and I just want to let you know where we're at with that regard. Next slide, please. I missed you guys. Oh my gosh, there's so much to go through. Oh my heavens. Like, I feel so sorry, Ian. I'm just being honest. Like, there's a lot to go through, and I'm like so excited to finally be sharing this with you guys. All right, so number 3, recommendations, tourism opportunities. So part of the strategy, of course, one of the third pillars is animating tourism opportunities, looking at things that we can be making happen. We have been working on a rural cycling event. I unfortunately lost the person that was helping me with that project, and I've had to put it on hold. But absolutely, so we've been working with our cycling partners and the cycling groups, right? So the rural cycling groups and the Kingston cycling groups, we've been having conversations with them about what does this look like? How do we do a cycling event? So the cycling event that we've been thinking of is a cycling event that maybe starts at the Invista Center and goes up and through like almost to Harrowsmith, but not quite. And then kind of we have stops and we have food vendors maybe and local farmers participating. And so we're looking at doing something that showcases the great paths that we have in rural Kingston, and then showcases local food, local farms, and participation in that regard. We were really hoping to have it in September, and I do apologize, and I'm sorry I couldn't take it off of this PowerPoint in time, but we're going to absolutely be doing it next year. So that's on the radar, and we have local cycling groups very engaged and wanting to work with us as well. As well as Tourism Kingston. They're like absolutely on board to support us in what that could be. Tourism Kingston has a great piece on their website in terms of cycling. And what we want to do is just create an event that it's not just City of Kingston cycling, it's also, hey, let's start at the City of Kingston and let's get into our rural routes and then start it that way. So that's kind of the goal for that cycling event, and it'll absolutely happen in 2023. The encouraged agritourism initiatives. So again, Open Farms Tour, which we talked about on September 10th and 11th. Really excited about our engagement and our partnership with Frontenac County to make this a mutual event. The Open Farms Harvest, October 2nd at City Hall and Market Square. And then the Kingston Public Market Development, which we're really excited about as well. Next slide, please. I need some water. Excuse me. Okay, so rural cluster development. Again, this is longer term projection, much deeper research, much more work in terms of seeing what are our opportunities, what can we be doing. So currently in the past 8 months since I've been in the role, we are working closely with Kingston Economic Development. I was really lucky. So for the 12 years previous to this role, I was in that other economic development role with LNA. And I worked very closely with Kingston Economic Development. So I have an amazing relationship with them. We talk all the time. So working with them on what does that, business park development look like from a rural capacity? How do we help them? Here's the thing. So when I was the Senior Economic Development Officer for Lennox-Santa County, I was getting calls from Kingston Economic Development all the time about, okay, so we don't have the land. We don't have the land that we need for business development. What do you have in LNA? Because we were so close and we were working so closely together. Now that I'm in Kingston, I'm thinking, you know what, we need to really help Kingston and support that development. So we're doing a lot of research. I'm working closely with our real estate department and our planning department on business park development and land opportunities. So real estate and planning, we have different opportunities in terms of some land that's been available that City of Kingston is looking at acquiring. And I've been involved in all of those discussions in terms of what does that look like from a business point of view? Who could be on this land? What businesses do we want to be incorporating on this land? And so I've been very fortunate to be included in all those conversations and supporting what those potentials could look like in terms of that rural real estate, that rural opportunity for business. Exploring rural healthcare. Oh my gosh. So when I first started, I was lucky, again, because of my past role and who I am, I was lucky that I have a great relationship with Queen's University. So coincidentally, one of my neighbors is part of the Queen's University Innovation Group. And I was invited, they have, as part of DDQIC, so, oh my gosh, don't even ask me, sorry, I apologize. I want to say it, but I'm going to say it wrong. So it's DDQIC at a Queen's University. And they invited me to actually moderate some panels, multiple panels on rural health. And what does rural health look like? Where are the gaps? Where are the opportunities? What's happening in our rural communities? And so Frontenac County and us were included in these conversations, and I moderated the panels. We had physicians on board, we had community health centers on board, and we were talking, we had also people from Kingston Health Science Center, and we had multiple conversations about where are the gaps in rural, what's happening? Is it transportation? You know, is it, we don't have those care centers in rural that we need? Why are we missing people? How do we get those people care that they need? And so I'm working closely with Queen's University and the DDQIC on developing opportunities to support rural health and to support rural communities in rural health. So we have had some discussions with some of the medical facilities in the area, and the Queen's students are putting together some really great information to help support next steps. So we're just in the midst of, you know, doing those moderated panels, finding out what those gaps are, and then Queen's is working on what do those gaps look like, how do we look at some opportunities, and we're helping make that that project move forward. So still very involved and just in the midst of making that happen. Next slide, please. Okay, so recommendations, enablers. So enablers, you know, really it's about who can help us, where the money can help us, what partnerships look like. And we have, oh my gosh, like built wonderful partnerships with academia, local partners, Kingston Economic Development, our regional economic development offices, regional counties. One of the funding envelopes, so we did receive as part of the Community Training Firms project, is $250,000 from the province under the Skills Development Fund. And I think, I did talk to you about this before in terms of 25-30 applicants, supporting farming communities and their employment needs. So that was a really great project so far, and we're working really hands-on. SLC, St. Lawrence College, is supporting us in the trades piece, late fall, early winter. And we're hoping to have 25 to 30 trained participants that will be available to our farming community starting January. We're really excited that we have trained people to have all of those skills necessary to be working at a farm level so that our farmers can have some staff. I know staffing just from my previous role as well, and working with the farms in the region in the past 8 months, staffing in the agricultural world is very difficult. It's not and I used to have farmers that I've worked with for years say, you know, it's not defined as a fun job, it's a passion, right? So as a farmer and as a, you know, somebody that's in the agricultural industry, you have a passion for it. And so to talk about having staff, whether it's high school or college or, you know, people in your community, you know, how do we attract staff to work at our farms with sometimes not necessarily the best jobs? I was talking to a farmer the other day that I've worked with in the past, and oh my gosh, like the heat in the past 2 months, the past 2 weeks has been horrendous, right? So how do we help support our farming community, our agricultural community in finding the staff they need and making it an attractive option, right, for people looking for jobs? So working on that. The other piece is, so I have a really great connection with the Roma Group, Rural Ontario Municipality Association. Really great relationship with their council, their board, excuse me, and the chair of the board, and a consultant that's working closely with them. And so I speak regularly with the consultant and the board about how do we align with the Roma goals and how do we make, because their goals are very similar in terms of that rural investment opportunities and rural development. And so I'm working closely with them and talking closely with them about what that looks like and how we can align, not duplicate. How do we align with them on strategies and ways that we can support rural development delicately, strategically, again, not pushing the city of Kingston out, but supporting rural communities to be more sustainable and more effective within themselves and not relying on the larger city partners. And then the other piece, I'm really lucky actually. So the Queen's MBA program, I'm working closely with the head of the department, and they're offering us a student starting late September to help look at that rural development piece and new servicing options, like different servicing options. Frontenac County is doing a great job right now looking at a new servicing option in Charlotte Lake. And I think maybe some of you are aware of this. I've been kind of following it and working, alongside with them. It's their project, but they're doing a project in Charlotte Lake to see about, new alternative servicing options to service buildings and their communities in Frontenac County. So I'm really lucky. We have an MBA student that's going to be coming on board. We're hoping beginning of October for about 4 months to help us look at opportunities that have happened in other communities just outside, as well as Frontenac, but look at other communities that are doing alternative servicing options. And what does that look like from a rural development? I'll give you a great example, and not looking to push out and make cities, but I grew up in the west end of Ottawa many years ago, and my parents decided that we needed to move to Barrhaven. Barrhaven 40 years ago was farms and farm field, and we had the green belt. So Ottawa was separated by a green belt, and then there was rural. That's all it was rural. So Manotick was rural. A lot of Canada was rural. Stittsville was rural. Richmond was rural. Everything north of Ottawa, the west end of Ottawa, was rural. And Barrhaven was this new development, and we moved to this very brand new development, new housing development in Barrhaven. Nobody was there. And I lived in Ottawa, and I grew up in Ottawa. I was 12 years old. And what I love about that, though, is the city of Ottawa had a goal to push out opportunities in rural Ottawa. And they had the green belt that was separating the city of Ottawa from the rest of rural in that area. And never wanting what happened to Barrhaven. Barrhaven is an outrageous story in terms of ridiculousness and large in scale. But I really appreciate how that happened in terms of building out rural and showing opportunities to build out rural. So there's so many examples. Milton is another amazing, again, not wanting to be a Milton, but what did it take to start pushing out some opportunities for hamlets and rural development from a city center? And so we have an MBA student that is going to be starting with us in October to help kind of look at what those options, what happened, like how do we look at options, what are servicing options, how do we handle hydro, water, sewer, all of that stuff. Next slide, please. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up what happened in terms of what is the strategy about and where we are. Excuse me. So there was 3 main areas for activities in the next 12 to 24 months. So based on the strategy last year, the recommended short-term next steps, 12 to 24 months, were logistics and internal mechanics, partnerships and collaboration, community outreach and engagement. So I have touched upon partnerships, collaboration, community outreach and engagement. Logistics, internal mechanics, those are the longer term projects. So that's that 24 months piece. Still working on that, working on research for that. The other 2 pieces on the bottom, partnerships, community outreach, those have happened already and still continuing to make that happen. Next slide, please. Short-term next steps on the rural strategy, 12 to 24 months. Recommended ideally 3 resources be allocated. So 1 resource for agriculture, 1 resource for rural tourism, 1 resource for cluster development. So what's the result of that since I've been doing this for 8 months? So we have a new business development analyst. We just hired him 2.5 weeks ago. His name's Mark Nardi. He came from our comms department or communications department. And he and I have been working really closely to develop a brand new business development wing at the City of Kingston. Part of what he's going to be doing is also rural business development and supporting rural businesses. So we actually have myself and Mark Nardi designated to help support business development, not only in the City of Kingston, but also in rural Kingston as well. And that's a big piece. So continued partnership, NFU, National Farmers Union, oh my gosh, they have been far and beyond, as also the OFA, Ontario Farmers Association, have been unbelievably supportive in this new role. And I've known them for years, and just really incredible in terms of pushing out, news stories and information through their email blasts and their newsletters. And I just can't tell you enough how both those two organizations have been phenomenal in terms of supporting this role. Tourism Kingston and Golden 5. So Tourism Kingston has been an absolute supporter always with us, but now that there's a designated rural person in the role, they have actually been very focused in helping us support rural Kingston and rural Kingston initiatives from a tourism standpoint. And then Golden 5 has been phenomenal in terms of supporting with this new event. And I'm really hoping actually Golden 5 can help us with the revitalization of Market Square as well. Queens projects, like I talked to you about, working on multiple projects with Queens. South Frontenac and the planning department for cluster development. So South Frontenac and ourselves have been working closely together about a partnership on planning. And what does that look like? So transportation and housing development and business development. And how does that look? Because we have rural Kingston, but then all of a sudden we have South Frontenac, which is quite a big population, which directly relates to rural Kingston at the north part of the City of Kingston. So working closely with South Frontenac, and Louise and her team are the new CFO there. Working in partnership with city planning, so very closely working with city planning and our real estate department, identifying opportunities. They've included me in discussions on land development and what that looks like, and we'll continue to work with them. But that process, in terms of bigger development, will happen late fall, early winter of this year. Next slide, please. Again, next steps, 12 to 24 months. So developing a benchmark for current performance, fine-tuning metrics, the 1-2 year each year. So we have a program called Cascade. It's an internal management program that actually stems from our CAO, Lanny, and then goes down to all of the commissioners and then the directors. Up until recently, it's only been commissioners and directors that have been part of the Cascade program. So it's really a project development software program that helps Lanny and council understand what's happening at all the departments, where are the strategies in place, where are the goals that are in place, and how are they functioning, and where are they doing in terms of metrics. So it's a license program. So I'm actually being added onto the license as a manager, which I feel really lucky about because I have so much on my plate and so many things happening. And so I'm waiting, we're thinking 2 to 4 weeks before I can get onto that program. And then I'm going to be able to start then from a rural perspective, start addressing all of the projects and all of the things that are happening from the rural strategy on Cascade, so that funnels back up to our commissioners and then to Lanny, our CAO as well. In partnership with the City of Kingston Planning. So like I said before, working with them closely in supporting the growth and identifying sectors and opportunities, still working on that. That is a longer term vision. Next slide, please. Again, okay, so 12 to 24 months. I remember, I'm just going to stop for 1 sec. Sorry, I remember when I was interviewing and I knew Craig Desjardins very well. I've known him for years. And I'm in the interview and they had given me the job description of this role. And I had many years of experience, business development, business ownership, have been doing it forever. And I said, you realize that the ask is huge, like it's huge. And they're saying, yes, it is. And we'll help you find the team and get you the partners. And so I was really excited about this. Like it's, oh my gosh, like the City of Kingston has never done anything like this before. And I feel so privileged that I can be, on the ground running, making these changes happen and building these relationships and aligning our departments to be, all of our departments have a little bit of rural in them, all like arts and culture and climate change, and all of them have little bits of rural in them, planning, real estate, but nobody's ever connected all of that rural in one spot. They've never said, okay, maybe we should all kind of align together instead of you doing this piece on rural and you doing this piece. Because I mean, look at all the years in the past few years. I was part of that December meeting. Every meeting, you would have a department present to you a piece of something that was happening with regards to rural. And that's great. But oh my gosh, like now we have our department that can say, okay, so now how do we align all of this amazing stuff that's happening with rural and build it together to make it one bigger picture? And so I feel so fortunate that I get to be that person and build that department to make all of that happen, right? So all of those presentations that you would have from other departments, I get to work with those departments now and say, okay, how do we align this? Like you talked about this, you work with this, like how do we work together to make this, you know, stronger and bigger and more streamlined? I think that's the biggest piece, right? Like really more focused and more streamlined. So very grateful for that. Kingston Economic Development, I talk to them regularly. We have regular meetings, again, long-term 10, 12-year relationship with them. So always working with them on opportunities. Tourism Kingston has been phenomenal in supporting whatever we need on the rural perspective. And I think if I look at past events and past opportunities, Tourism Kingston did what they could on the staff that they had, but again, never really having that go-to person at the City of Kingston to help align all of that information and all of those projects and opportunities. They just didn't, right? Like, so culture and heritage and again, climate and real estate and planning wouldn't think, oh my gosh, well, we need to get Tourism Kingston involved because there's some of this stuff that's like, it's just a new way of having that relationship. And they've been phenomenally supportive about that collaboration. And then the other piece was, so supporting organization to mobilize Rural Kingston plan, always, you know, whether it's academia, other partners, like other employment agencies, we are working very closely with everybody. And even more so now that we're developing this business support office. And I'm, you know, creating this opportunity for us to be supporting businesses in all matters, partners in all matters, and then really getting to touch rural Kingston, who haven't been directly supported I don't think, like I just, and I wanted to talk to you, one of the questions that I do want to ask you after we have some discussion is getting some support and understanding about how do I get out to those rural communities in terms of the businesses and the farms as well. COVID has been a real challenge with that. And just looking for your direction on that piece as well. It's been difficult with COVID and being respectful of people's privacy and understanding that we're still a little afraid. So wanting to have a quick discussion with you on that. Next slide, please. Okay, so continuing community stakeholder engagement. I have met with existing farms. So Frontenac County and ourselves met with farmers in the early of the year, February, March, and talked about what is it that they're looking for? What do they need? What are their goals? And so putting that together and then pushing that out on my end as well. Again, working with local developers, already talked about this, helping Hamlet development, identifying gaps for planning approvals. So the other piece, identifying gaps for planning and approvals requirement to streamline processes. Oh my gosh. So we have a new business support department. I'm managing that business support department with Mark Nardi. We have businesses that call us and go, so I have a piece of property and I'm thinking of developing it for a business, rural, wherever, but typically rural. So who do I call? And trying to navigate through the City of Kingston departments to understand, who do I have to talk to? Do I need this? Do I need that? Do I have to talk to public health? Do I have to go? I need employees. Who do I talk to about employees? I need coaching or grants. Do I talk to Kingston Economic Development? So we now have a business support department that's our whole goal, is really streamlining and identifying what their goals are and helping them really get the information they need quickly instead of trying to navigate through those systems. So that's a really big one as well. And then, anyways, next slide. I'm getting tired. Sorry, my apologies. So a number of things. I have a lot of questions about reach out. How do I talk to rural communities through COVID? We want to talk about face-to-face meetings, outside gatherings. The other piece that has been brought to me by Janet Janes is we have the community benefit program. We have talked about this in the past. There's that benefit program, and my apologies, I don't know a lot about it. It's a donation of money through the solar program that goes towards rural support. I've been told, and Rural Advisory Committee has approved this, that we build up this reserve and we put money towards the solar park, towards economic development and support opportunities in rural communities. What I heard in December, I think it was in December, was that we're having some challenges with boat launches in rural Kingston and access to water in rural Kingston. And we will have a reserve at the end of 2022, we will have a reserve like $370,000. And so I'm thinking, do we want to talk about, do we buy land that's on water so that we can then build up access and boat launches and park ideas in rural Kingston? Because I heard from previous meetings that this was definitely something that there was an interest in and something that was a challenge. So wanting to, talk about, I think there's some opportunity that we could maybe buy some land, build a small park, and then have it as a boat launch opportunity to one of the lakes in rural Kingston. Again, something to talk about. They are looking for our ideas before the end of the year on what that money could be designated to. And then just looking for your ideas after all of this conversation. Oh my gosh, thank you. It was a long presentation and I've been waiting for 8 months for it, and I'm very gracious and thankful for your time.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Tracy. You've been one busy lady. And yeah, I mean, you're obviously your past experience and networking is, it's just a wealth of experience and networking and relationships. So you're well on your way. You've got a lot of things already accomplished, things like dates set. It's not just talk. So it's really exciting. And I'm sure the committee has a lot of questions. So the floor is now open, and put your hand up or else just identify questions. John Warnham, go.
Hi, John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tracy, thanks a lot for that presentation. It got me all excited and gave me lots of ideas. Now, as you know, I can be a little bit brusque in my presentation, and I pepper myself with some army sayings, but I limit myself to the mostly polite ones. So I'll start kind of in reverse order. Thanks a lot for identifying that issue of what I call strategic incoherence. It drove me nuts.
Oops.
Uh-oh.
We have a bad internet connection right now. Oh boy.
Of course I do.
Oh,
John?
Can you hear me now?
Okay, could you start that again, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Where did you lose me?
Pretty early on,
Yeah.
after brusque, let's just put it that way.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off my video to save some bandwidth. So yes, rural internet, how topical. And of course there's some electrical storm out there. So anyways, I'll start with saying thank you so much for identifying what I call strategic incoherence. It drove me nuts when I was in Afghanistan, and I've said it in this forum. It is bizarre to me how often I see these different pieces of what I consider operational aspects that are basically, trying to come together in the void. And I would say, for the record, with all respect to our councillors, that the issue is that it's a lot of city staff and employees who are trying to identify this, because we're not getting it from council, to my knowledge. But we need something to filter down from on high, which in my mind is council, to give guidance to you, the employees and staff and contractors, to shape what this strategy for Kingston is and what the strategy is for density by design and active transportation and tree planting and rural development and business development and so on and so forth. Now, to get down to brass tacks, I've got a few specific questions about the first bullet point you're talking about, agricultural development stuff. That's my bailiwick, so I'll try to focus on it. So first, I really think it's a catastrophe, or at least tragic, that the planned abattoir isn't happening. I mean, you know, much as I do, a little bit more, that was the first new abattoir in Eastern Ontario in decades.
Yeah, 30 years. Yeah.
And it's dead on arrival. So as we talk about processing and local food, I would urge all of the economic development folks out there to really look at that as a real tragedy and say, if we've got hundreds of thousands of dollars percolating through for this community development fund and the on-farm training program and this strategy and that strategy, the thing that killed it was money, which comes as no surprise to any business owner. It's like, we need that money to stop going towards planning sessions and strategies and to build things on the ground. And so if a guy is saying, I'm going to make this business, I would really like our public sector to say, here's money, here's more money, because that's what's going to make it happen, instead of, oh, let's give you a consulting service. I think everybody knows that. The question is, how do we make that money? Can the city of Kingston start having a budget line item that says business implementation support, infrastructure development? Can our city council say, we are allocating $5 million and somebody can get it as an interest-free loan or even a grant, and it's there. We voted in every year. It's like the Pittsburgh Community Benefit Fund. And some wily businessmen out there could make a contract. I love a good contract, and get that public money for their private interests that is serving the public good and making food. Because a farmer like me, you can't just take a sheep out of the field and eat it. You have to be crass. You have to kill it and chop it up. And I know a lot of people out there don't like that, but that's the reality, especially on our poor land. Livestock farming is one of the best ways to make food out here. On that note, for this October 2nd Market Square event, is there any, so it sounds to me like it's a bit of a farmer's market sort of idea, a bit of a special event that includes the food sales, farmers market stands, and menu planning from this third-party contractor. Do I kind of have that right?
So no, so the first priority is more about celebration of harvest and local farms.
Mm-hmm.
Second priority is education and educating our local community about who our farms are, what they're doing, why they're important. The third piece is showcasing our local farms at the farmers market, not necessarily selling. Again, it's about education. So this is not selling, making money. Like, this is about education, collaboration, and farmers working together. So when I say set up like a farmers market, I don't mean I want farmers to set up and sell their wares. I want farmers to be there and talk about what they do. To me, it's about education. It's not about making a farmers market then having food and chefs on the side. It's about celebration of food. It's about having farmers talk. It's about having our community finally, from the agricultural standpoint, talk to our community, our residents in Kingston about what they do and why it's important. Have chefs making the food from our local farms with local food. But then the market portion, it's really, so two pieces on the farmers market piece. Not all the farms can support the chefs with their food. Again, timing. I wasn't able to talk to anybody early spring and planting, so I couldn't give heads up and say, hey, we're having this event October 2nd. Can you plant extra this and plant this and plant that? And we're looking at doing this. It was later in the game. So we're looking at the farmers now who can't supply food to the chefs. showcasing what they do. Again, not necessarily selling it, but showcasing what they do, talking about what they do. The other piece, so that's really important, is it's a segue. I believe it's a segue for then when I'm working on the planning of revitalization of Market Square to say, okay, these are some of the things that we can be doing at Market Square and at the City of Kingston to really launch local food, local produce, what our farmers do, food security, all of that. That's it. It's not farmers market and then everything goes out of that. It's the reverse. Farmers market is the add-on in terms of information education.
Okay. So here's what I'm thinking, and this is a bit of a pecuniary interest, therefore I disclose it and I leave it to another party to see if it actually is a conflict of interest. So I'm getting my turkeys butchered September 30th. They're fresh. They're coming from Barrow Bay Poultry near Kemptville. I have coordinated hypothetically with one of the chefs event. They've taken 10 of my turkeys. They're preparing them. People are watching them get prepared and the food goes off elsewhere. They buy it. They buy a fresh turkey from me. And what's the incentive? What's the advantage to a farmer to hang out there during a fairly busy time of the year and say, yeah, these are the turkeys I grew, but you can't buy them right now. You have to come back to my farm or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great if I show up with my trailer full of turkeys and say, yeah, these were raised 10 kilometers down the road. They had to get butchered 90 kilometers down the road. And here we are, buy one.
Yeah, so your question is, what's the benefit if you're not selling product?
Yeah, and what's the benefit of just hanging out?
Has there ever been
kind of a repetition
anything
of
that,
over farms?
has there ever been anything in the City of Kingston that talks to what our local farms do and our local agriculture and this, and how we have this incredible vast amount of food and farming and local opportunities in our region? That's what I'm celebrating. Like, that's how I see it being celebrated. I see it being celebrated as, hey, look at what we do. Nobody's ever talked about this before, and we're celebrating it now. And this is harvest season. I know it's the hardest season, and I apologize, but it had to coincide with food being harvested and then chefs also producing the food. So I see this as an absolute education piece. Then in addition to that, so not only just looking at this in terms of next steps and that push out in terms of the new farmers market, the other piece though is, so we're educating our local community at this event. And then in first week in November, we're having a whole day training session on what it's like to make local food. So it's a continuation of opportunity to celebrate who we are as agriculture and rural people that in Kingston, that's never happened before. That's the goal.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay,
Gotcha.
I think,
Yeah,
thanks, John. If you have further questions, we're just going to go around and we can come back to you if that's okay with you, and keep moving. Please hold on your questions, but I'm going to open up the floor if there's another question for Tracy right now. Okay, may I ask one as the chair, and should I pass it on to vice chair just to Councillor Oosterhoff? What's the protocol, Clerk Sullivan?
Sorry.
Hello, I can receive can you hear me? I can receive the chair and recognize you.
Okay, that's fine. First of all, thank you for joining in. Charles Foreman came in late, as well as Councillor Bohm. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining the meeting. It's made for a full meeting tonight, which is great.
Thank you.
It's been some time since we've had this full opportunity, so it's great. Yes, if you wouldn't mind, I'll relinquish the chair just for a moment to ask my question.
That's good. Go ahead, Allison. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Oosterhoff. So with respect to the Community Training Farms project, Tracy, I'm just curious, congratulations on procuring that money. That's important. Is there a deadline, application process? How do we let people know apply? Because if there's trades training involved from St. Lawrence College, this is a multifaceted program that people need to know about. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So, and I was hoping actually at our last meeting, which unfortunately we didn't have quorum at, that I was going to talk more to that in terms of the applicants. So right now we have 25 applicants. Our goal is 30. We have, and I know this is really tight, and I do apologize, it was going to be introduced at the last meeting. We do have about a 2-week window where we can bring in 5 other applicants. So we have a 30 applicant window, but we have 2 weeks. So if you know of anybody in terms of your businesses, farming businesses, people that you want extra training for employees, there's an opportunity for us to bring those in. The training process it's really easy, actually. 4 hours a week, 1 day a week for a participant to come on farm. So on farm at the corner of Days and Front at the community training farm. Then in November and December, we're going to do in school training, again, 4 to 6 hours a week for about 6 to 8 weeks at St. Lawrence College for trades. So electrical, carpentry, and welding. So all 3 of those trades. And then the idea then was in January and February, we were going to do some either internships or kind of like opportunities for mentorship at farms, with the idea being all 30 applicants would get jobs by February, March. So yes, I was going to bring it up at the last meeting, but it was unfortunately delayed. We have 5 spots left that we would absolutely love. Anybody that you think that would qualify for on-farm training, 4 hours a week, 1 day a week, until at least the beginning of November, in school training, SLC, 4 to 6 hours a week till the end of December, and then hopefully jobs. You can pass them on to me, and I'll be very happy to pass it on to our manager, our operating manager with Loving Spoonful.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Councillor Ostroff, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Don't do this very often. I'm in my vehicle, so thank you for your patience with me to this whole committee. It's really good to be here and really great to hear Tracy and the incredible amount of work being done. And I do see there's a lot going on, Tracy, and we obviously want to be, as a committee, aware and be supportive. And there's a lot of dots to connect here, and so we're not going to do it all right away. But we want to continue to hear from you and continue to find all the alignment that we can, and from all the circles that we bring into this. So I'm going to need to hear it more too, and I want to certainly, as counselor, I have a lot to learn. Tracy, from you too, and all the things that are going on. And I want this committee to know, and that Tracy to know, that everything that you're talking about resonates as so critical and important in one of the council's goals of food sustainability, and just a critical role that the rural area plays, and even this committee. So one of the, again, I have so many things in my head as I listen to you, but I want to let it carry on and have a life, carry on with the life that it has. But Madam Chair, the question I have is related to the challenges that we have from the federal government right now. And I wanted to ask us as a committee to consider and have Tracy's input is regarding the storm clouds on the horizon related to some of the direction that the federal government is seeming or claiming to make, or on the nitrogen and all that, and which could affect food production. And I was wondering if we should watch that a little bit and perhaps make a motion. I was thinking of talking about it tonight. I don't have a motion prepared, but if it's critical enough that we might make a motion before the September meeting, and even have a very short called meeting about where we as a rural advisory would consider making a motion to council to bring awareness to the city and to the rural area that we would like the federal government to reconsider the impact on agriculture, on food production, on sustainability, and everything that we're doing here. Just hearing John speak, Madam Chair, I just think that the impact, and I don't want to create stories. I never would. I don't want to create uncertainty or fears and all that. But I do believe that I am hearing through the farming community that this is a concern, what the federal government is proposing, and that we ought to examine it for a meeting, maybe call a special meeting. But if we could make a motion to council that I'm hoping would be passed, that would address that and be a strong voice. And so could we discuss that possibility, and also hearing from Tracy a little bit of what she's hearing, and are we being too alarmist right now? Is this something that is being recognized by our universities and agriculture and all that? And so where's the direction that we need to how to handle this, and can we make a positive difference?
If I could just,
Yes.
so I hear a question in there, and I'm looking to the rest of the committee members. Tracy, I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer that question if you can, or perhaps what Gary's bringing up now, Councillor Straub, is something that we need to perhaps touch on other business further down the agenda if we're talking about making a motion. But perhaps you can give Tracy the opportunity to respond to what you're bringing up, please.
Yeah, and thank you, Councillor Straub, for that comment. I would recommend actually us having a separate meeting just to have a discussion about this first and see what that looks like and what we could be proposing in terms of the motion. That would be my thought, but I'll leave that up to you, Chair, and to the rest of the committee to decide. But I think we have to have a separate discussion about what that looks like and what you're thinking, like what's your ask, and what is it that you really want coming out of council that we can prepare effectively, right, and responsibly. Absolutely agree with what you're saying, but I just don't know if tonight is, again, respectfully, if we have enough time to be delving through that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that there's this other cloud on the horizon that we need to be able to speak to. Thank you, Tracy. And I am all for a separate meeting and on the call of the chair. And I actually think it should be, but I don't want to undermine the incredible work and the movement forward that we're going to conduct and that is happening. Okay, I celebrate that, and I'm going to be there with you, and I want to connect with you. So, but I do want to say that that's something we have to recognize risks and do risk management, right? So I am happy to leave it there, but wanting to pick that up at the right time so that our voice will be heard. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Straub. Perhaps we will touch on this briefly. Can I just have a quick look around the screens to see how everybody else feels if this particular sideline, this important question? Charles, you're going to speak to this briefly and what we're talking about. Please turn your mic on. Can't hear you.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So try to be very brief. I think you don't have to be concerned at all. It's emissions where most of us, I would say probably 85 to 90% of the grain farmers in Canada are already doing the 4 R's as far as fertilizer goes. We don't want to spend any more money on fertilizer than we have to because it is so expensive. We're already well within the realm of what the federal government is asking for. They have no way of policing it at any point because when we look back at the herbicide, the way they were going to control that starting 20 years ago, they never policed it at all. All the big companies, rather than cutting back the amount of chemicals we were going to use, they just concentrated it a little heavier. Nothing changed a bit. So most farmers aren't concerned about this at all, and most of the big companies that bring fertilizer in don't even see it on the radar. They think that we're very much controlling what we're doing anyway. So it might be a bit of a publicity stunt from the federal government. That's my take on it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have Tracy at our here, and I think we should get back on to asking her questions. Jose, you have been extremely patient. I'm going to allow you, please ask your question, and we can go re-ask questions other members of the committee as well. Please, Jose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think my contribution tonight is a bit more of a commentary than a question. Well, you'll see how it's being framed. But thank you, Tracy, for your presentation. It was very eloquent, very wholesome, and I really, really appreciated all of the attention to the rural economic development and some light on what is happening. So I think my question or worry is about the scale and the scope of rural development. So what what do we mean by development? How do we define it specifically? And always thinking of the best interest of the rural environment. When we bring development to a rural environment, it becomes an urban center and an urban environment. So how do we intend to preserve the ruralness and the rural culture, the rural sentiment? And as we bring tourist activities in the rural environment, it's also a question of, how is the local population accepting these events? Is bring more traffic, more, right? It's all encompassing as to the livelihood and what brings individuals to live in the rural environment. And that changes completely the feeling of being rural. So how is that being managed? What is the local population saying and thinking about these things? And I'm sorry to even being asking you this, Tracy, because I know how difficult it is to reach the rural population. We host community meetings and there's little participation. The internet broadband is poor to start with. So it's extremely difficult for you to answer that, but I still wanted to put it out there, because as we bring more attention, as we celebrate it, as we develop it with the Hamlet development servicing, the land acquisition, this is going to change the nature of Kingston's rural environment. It's going to change how the people live in those environments. And unfortunately, we hear a lot more from the people that are dissatisfied from it. So how is that being managed and addressed, essentially?
Yeah, very good question. And I was trying to reiterate as much as I could when I was talking about development. This is not about pushing Kingston out. When I talked about Barrhaven and Milton, this is not about making rural Kingston, Barrhaven, or Milton. Absolutely, this is not. We're just looking for examples of how, because the province has such strict mandates on what development looks like, right? So if we have a hamlet in rural Kingston, for example, and we want to add 10 houses on a side street, it's not going to happen. Province won't allow that to happen, right? Because there's no servicing, the infrastructure is not in place. There's rules and regulations. I mean, we're not looking at pushing out the city. That is not at all the goal. And this is why I'm saying it's a longer term project. So I have some immediate things that I'm working on this year. There needs to be some research still done on what that development looks like. There needs to be some understanding of what the community wants in terms of development. We have not done a community outreach in terms of what that development looks like. We have not reached out to our hamlets and our communities and said, what do you want? What do you need? To our businesses, what are you looking for? What are their gaps? What are the opportunities? I have not had that chance to even look at doing that, which is where I was kind of also looking for your guidance as a committee on how do we even start talking to those rural businesses, right? Because I come across as, here's Tracy Snow, I'm a city employee, what do I know? Right, and I'm being respectful. And I think my experience knows a lot, but I can't get to those people and go down their driveway or knock on their door and say, hi, I'm Tracy. Like, I'd really want to meet you and have a conversation because it's COVID. Do I wear a mask? Do I be respectful, wear a mask? Do they feel comfortable meeting a stranger? It's a very tough situation. Like I'm thinking this month, I may be able to get to go out and just start saying hi at the end of the driveway, they open the door, say, like that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of work to be done even before we figure out what that looks like. But I'm telling you very clearly, this is not about pushing the city out and making it the other 83% of City of Kingston city. That is not the case. Plus, we're mandated by the province and our bylaws that that's not the case. So you're good for that one, right? All good. But I really see, like, and again, I brought that Tamworth perspective to it. Like, I lived in Tamworth for 8 years, and my parents lived in Prince Edward County, and they used to tease me and say, like, oh my gosh, like your town has a gas station and has this and a hardware store. And I used to tease my friends from Kingston and Ottawa and say, I could stay in Tamworth, and if I was sick or decided I had every service that I needed in Tamworth. And Tamworth has a population of like 500 people, 400 people. Like, it's small, it's tiny, right? That's what I'm talking about, right? So we envision from the rural strategy, from the city perspective, how do we support our existing hamlets and our existing communities to make them more successful, to make the people that live in those communities more successful. Again, not pushing out. When there's talk about, industrial development or business development or land development, we're talking McAdoo Lane, East End, like it's all around the city of Kingston at this, like, at least in my lifetime, like in my work time, right? So please know that this is about community engagement. We haven't done that yet. We have a strategy in place that's looking for this, but there needs to be a lot of other research done before that even happens. And there will be many conversations before anything happens with all of you, I promise. Yes, so I hope I answered your question. Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Thanks, Tracy. Another question from the committee? Go ahead, Charles. You're muted.
Yeah. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Hello, Tracy. Our first time
Hi, Charles.
meeting.
I've heard a lot of great things about you, by the way.
Well, I hope so. I have a list here that's very long, and they're more or less questions, or I wonder if you're aware. So probably 98, 99% of the product that's produced in the city of Kingston by farmers goes out of this area. And you're fully aware of that?
Yeah, I am.
So I'm kind of concerned that the people that you are getting in touch with are very small food producers and not necessarily the people that are managing the biggest plots of land. And so, because when I talk to my neighbors, they don't know, they're unaware of any of this. Yeah. And it's great that we have the small producers as well, but can
I make the comment, Charles, before your next comment?
Yep.
So this is one of the things that I was really hoping to talk to you as a committee about as well. So I have a pool of businesses and farms that I'm aware of, that I've done as much reach out as I possibly can, understanding we're still in COVID. I have included all of the committee. I've included probably 30 plus other farms that I'm aware of that are engaged with some of the things that we're doing to help press and spread the word and talk about what we're doing. Farmers meetings. So we had farmers meetings in February and March. I included all of the committee in all of those meetings to let you all know, please spread the word. We're having farm meetings with farmers to talk about big farms, little farms, everything agriculture. I'm stuck at not knowing how else to push it out. So I have the committee that I'm pushing it out with. I have about 30 to 40 other farms. We have other partners kind of in the region, OFA, NFU, that are just been wonderful in terms of pushing it out. I've even gone to the spring fling at NFU, that patchwork, like I'm doing what I can to get out as much as I can. I don't know how else to engage those larger farmers. And I've been working in the agricultural community for 14 years. Like I have been in business development for 14 years at the municipal level, for 14 years in LNA. And so I appreciate how busy you are as a large farmer. Absolutely appreciate that. I appreciate that it's really hard for you to be sitting here from 6 to 7:30, on a Monday night and talking to me when you could be doing other work in your business. And I'm grateful for that. I know how busy farmers are because I've worked in this industry for a long time, and I'm challenged with COVID and trying to do that push out without literally driving down your lane and introducing myself. And I'm happy if you're thinking farmers aren't going to care if I drive down their lane and go say hi, then I'm going to do it. I will do it. I just am really challenged with that balance of respect with COVID and farmers being busy and looking for your guidance on that. But I think I'm doing everything I can to do a reach out. If you can tell me how to make it bigger, would be grateful for that.
So I hear all that, and driving down the laneway, you'll be welcomed. Everybody's welcome. Because COVID has never affected the farming community whatsoever. Everybody's still been welcomed in everybody's laneway. That's the only way you're going to get the word out. Again, remember, most of these people, really don't, I mean, there's a reason they're farming. They like people, but they also like just working out in the field.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just got to get out there and visit them. I try to spread the word, but it's, unless somebody goes there who's actually doing it, it really doesn't mean much. It's just light conversation.
Thank you.
So
Charles.
anyway, as long as
I
you
appreciate
seem to be fully aware of that, I'm good with all that.
Okay.
The one thing that stuck out is you were talking about the boat launch, and that's been brought up in quite a number of our meetings over the last 2 years. And you're aware of the property on the Aragon Side Road?
I have heard of it. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the city already owns it, and so it's something that you might want to look into.
Okay.
I'm very interested in the 25 people, 30 people that are going to be available for farm jobs. And most of us in the community that have a fair number of employees are desperate to find people. I've had to bring somebody from the Ukraine. I bring Mexican employees in. I try to find local people, which seems to be almost impossible. So I'd be extremely interested, and I think I know of other people that would be as well. That's very exciting. I hope that program goes well. Other than that, I think you've got a very large list. Good luck to you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, Charles, I can tell you honestly, tonight's Monday night, and tomorrow morning you're going to be one of my first phone calls. Just telling you now.
Well,
And I'll be on your driveway sooner than you realize. So don't you
Perfect.
worry.
perfect.
There is only one other thing that I'm trying to be very open to this, because of course we produce local food as well. And so when I look at the celebration of Ag Day, I think how many of those larger producers that we were talking about earlier even are aware of that, or even want to be aware of it? Is it something that they just think it doesn't really include me? My food goes to Inkerman or goes to Cardinal or to Hamilton or wherever else. I really don't care as long as the check is in the mailbox. How do you get those kind of people to get people to understand the kind of food that we produce? It's not just for livestock. It goes into processed foods, and how many millions of dollars leave this area. And in saying that, when I say this area, you mentioned the Lennox and Adigan and South of Frontenac, we can't forget Leeds, because I farm in 3 of those areas, and Leeds has been extremely good to me over the years. And I didn't hear you mention that. And I think we have a very close connection with Gananoque, Lansdowne, Sealy's Bay, and beyond as well, Elgin. So I think it's a much bigger area than maybe we realize. I think that's about all I've got.
Thanks
I look
kindly.
forward to meeting you.
Yes,
Thanks, Charles. And
kindly.
you will meet me very soon. Thank you.
Councillor Oosterhoff, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to pick up on that, Madam Chair, are we going to have a meeting before? We have one more meeting this year. Is that correct?
September 12th. I would think we would have one in December, but
Oh,
I
good.
stand
Yeah, no, I
corrected
guess,
on that.
no, I guess that's right. Sorry about that. So I guess, Tracy, I'm wondering if that gives us enough time to work behind the scenes and come up with a proposal for the funding through the solar funding. There is background information. We all kind of know a little bit more on that. And Ryan, Councillor Bowman, and I do have some irons in the fire there too, and would like to that's probably the funds are there are as the clerk would know, and our clerk and there are some reasons guidelines of how to do that. So anyways, I if we can have another meeting, that's enough time, Tracy, to come up with some suggestions that we can vote on as a committee, then I can work behind the scenes with you on that, and our chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to do it. The clerk's office has asked me to talk to you about this evening, and absolutely happy to work in the background and then keep everybody abreast of that. Or
the next meeting, you said by the end of the year, right? By the end of the year, you need
by the end of the year, it has to be
okay.
Yeah.
I believe we can accomplish that, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Any other questions from the committee members at this point in time? Okay, I'm going to pass the chair quickly. Councillor Oosterhoff, if you don't mind. So I can ask the
received
question.
chair. Yeah, I received the chair and recognize you.
Okay. So are we, Tracy, you bring a holistic approach and you bring new meaning and relevance, I might suggest, to our role as a rural advisory committee, which we've never had before, because to me, you're a staff person who is 100% completely in line with the goals of this committee, the purpose of this committee. And that hasn't happened before. It happened in December of 2021. And the city has obviously shown this is important and a priority. So are you able to bring our committee, because we've had a motion, and I don't know if we can discuss it under other business, but we've put a motion to the committee that John Warren drafted, and it had everything to do with funding. I don't know where that's gone. Can you help this committee, as if actually we come up with a motion and help us get it to council? It's fine, we have staff, and this is to Mr. Werner's point. It's great that we have staff now to help us see some visions come to life, but we need to have that buy-in from the council. And I think there's a bit of a disconnect. Are you that person? Can you be that person to help us find out where that motion went, that I have not heard if we've had anything addressed to that, because that's key. That is so important to accomplishing a lot of the things in my mind that you've been talking about tonight. It does come down to money. Absolutely does come down to money, which the rural residents, the rural farmers in Kingston have been denied access to because of geopolitical boundaries. Are you going to be that person? Can you be that person who can bring it to council and say, yes, we've got some meat on this now? Because that, in my mind, is how things are going to change for the better. It's happened in South Frontenac. They've been very successful because they've had access to CFDC money, and a lot of good farming projects, good farms have gotten off the ground. Never happened in this municipality because of that. I know that's a long way of asking the question, but can you help us do that? Because that is of fundamental importance.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Allison, for shining the light on this. And I think it has been the hope that we have that working with Tracy. So Tracy, go ahead. Can you help us as we shine a light on this?
So two things on that. So first of all, Ann Pritchard from Frontenac CFDC and I know each other very, very well. We've worked together for 12 years. The day after the December 6th meeting that we had as the committee, and I wasn't on the agenda to talk, I called Ann Pritchard because that's when the motion came in, right? It was in December 6th. Was it December 6th or the next meeting?
Yeah, no, it was around that time. Yeah. Yeah.
So December 6th, I think, or the 7th, I think it was my very first meeting. I literally was like 2 days into the job. I called Ann the next day, Ann Pritchard, the executive director from Frontenac CFDC, and I said, so where is the path in terms of your office and the province and the feds supporting rural Kingston, because we're so closely aligned to South Frontenac and your territory. And Ann and I know each other very well. She has had numerous calls, numerous emails to the federal government who supports her and funds her to help support rural Kingston. I don't believe, and I can't really get into this, and the clerk's office, please mute me if I'm outstepping my boundaries. But I do not believe the motion never ever went through because Frontenac CFDC has asked the federal government for this to happen. And it's not the city of Kingston level. It's not, so yes, so hold on. Yes, we can fight it. And yes, I am the person to say, let's go to the federal government, let's go to the province, let's go to AMAFRA, let's go to the CFDCs and talk about getting funding for rural Kingston. Absolutely, I'm that person. We have to, that's a bigger discussion, I think, on a holistic level to talk about what are we asking? What are we looking for? What do we need? And then how do we present that? Because I've done this many times in other jobs. How do we present that to the federal government, to the province, to say we need support? Just because our population levels are higher in the city of Kingston, 83% of our land base is rural. So how do we continue to support our rural capacity with funding from the province and the feds, CFDCs, and make that happen? Ann Pritchard cannot do that by herself. So she needs the support from her regional partners to say, We need to work on this together to push this to the federal government to make this happen. I'm also thinking this, I'm already having conversations with OMAFRA from the provincial level. We don't qualify for OMAFRA grants, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So I'm already having those conversations with OMAFRA on the provincial level. So yes, next day after the December 7th meeting, I called Anne directly. Where is this at? What is happening? There's been a motion in play or a discussion of a motion in play. It never went to council because it is at a stopgap right now with the CFDC. I need your direction, and you need to let me know what is it that you need to happen so that we can create a plan so that I can go to the feds and to the province to see what we can get from the rural perspective. Happy to be there. Happy to help you with that.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Allison. Did you want to?
Well, I'm not going to ask, I'm going to open it up because I think,
Yes,
John
thank you.
Wernham was the one who drafted that motion and I
Yes,
think he can
yes.
speak to it. So I'm going to open it up because it's important.
Thank
John,
you.
go ahead.
Yes, good.
Thank you. I'm going to turn off my video again. So I am, as a lawyer, very concerned if a municipal committee passed a motion to go to council that it did not go to council. And I look to the city staff on this call to answer that question, because the city staff do not have the discretion to stop committees from taking those steps. So some city staff members stepped way out of line if they fudged the motion and put it in an office somewhere. They did not have that discretion. They did not have that administrative authority. It was from a committee to council. And I would very much like an answer as to what happened.
I have to admit, I have to go back. I want to speak to that as chairing, if I'm chairing this right now. John, and Allison, I'm confused of the timelines here. We're going to have to go back and see when that was, because if rural advisory did, I think we passed that motion, it would have, I just don't recall what's happened myself. So we'd have to go back to the clerks. I'd have to reread that motion and refamiliarize myself with that. Do you recall that, Tracy? That would have been early.
If I could just interrupt, Councillor Rustoff, Elizabeth Fawcett has her hand up and I'd like to have her respond.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Just to reflect on when this went to council. So there was the meeting in December that happened for the Rural Advisory Committee where that motion was passed by the committee. It did appear before council on January 11th as a full report. And from the minutes, I can see that it was carried of a vote of 9-0. So it was carried. Where that has gone after the fact, I would have to do a little more research to see what steps have been taken since that was passed to be able to provide more information to the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much. Thanks, Elizabeth. That's good. We didn't know that, or at least I didn't know that. So I appreciate that. And Tracy, I'll go ahead.
Sorry. So Elizabeth, 9-0, 9 favorable for the motion?
Yes.
Yes, so it was carried. Now I can't at this time, just because I haven't had a chance to look at it. I do not know whether or not council amended the motion that came from the committee, whether it is exactly the same as what the committee had passed. But I can say that the motion does appear and that it was resolved by City Council. It says, therefore be it resolved that Kingston City Council requests that the boundaries of the Community Futures Development Corporation of Frontenac County be expanded to include the rural zone of the City of Kingston despite the existing boundary along Highway 38 and Highway 401, and that a copy of the motion be sent to the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Marie-Claude Bibeau, Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Lisa Thompson, Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston, MPP Randy Hillier, Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston, MP Scott Reed, Kingston, the Islands, MP Mark Gerritsen, and the Kingston, the Islands, MPP Ian Arthur. So that was the motion that was passed by council, and we would have to do further investigations into where that went following that being passed.
Thanks very much. Councillor Oosterhoff.
Yeah, wow, that's really helpful, Elizabeth. Thank you for that. Now I do recall that. So I guess the question is, I think the committee needs is where has it gone from here? And that's a legitimate question because I don't know either. So I appreciate that. I guess what the question I wanted to ask with Tracy, now that we have her here, is do we, with that supported motion, unanimously supported motion, is there any, in your time now between January now, are we recognizing, I had heard that their barriers were being addressed, these barriers to this funding. I mean, really, I think Allison and I have been in conversation with this for 6 years now, when I first met you, Allison. So I had thought that there was progress in the last few months. And I guess, Tracy, you're saying we don't know where it's at yet, where there's no new ground yet.
So my apologies, I wasn't aware of this and nobody's asked me to do anything with it.
Okay.
Okay.
No idea.
So this is important. I don't want to see it lie because it was a motion.
Happy to follow through.
That's great. Then at this point, I think it's in capable hands. And Tracy, at the next time that we get together, which I believe is September 12th, this should definitely be part of the briefing, I would think. I do have a quick question. I don't know if I need to relinquish the chair. I'll pass it. Councillor Schroff again. Sorry.
Yes, I received the chair and recognize you again.
So my question is, are you going to be at every meeting? Because I think that, we can have some real consistency. Are we going to have a briefing from Tracy Snow every meeting? We only meet 4 times a year. I feel it's important. I don't know how the other committee members feel, but it's important because it's sort of the missing link that can keep us on a continuous thread and not lose track of where things are at and we can just be so much more effective to support you and to support our communities and the needs of our communities.
Yes, very well said. Tracy, I mean, is that not, I don't know if it's your chase, but we should ask that is something that the clerks also can answer, and we will receive guidance on that as far as agenda and place.
My understanding is I will be part of the agenda every meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Other questions at this time? It's been a great conversation. I know there's going to be more. Any other questions from any of the committee members currently? Okay, I don't believe we need any, there's no indication that we need to have closing remarks, but I just want to say a big thank you, Tracy, for being here. Finally, we get a chance to have a good conversation. I think if anything, we're going to go home and think about things and probably have a lot more questions. But I would like to think, just from your approach and your presentation tonight, that you have a very open door policy. You're looking for support. You're looking for help in order to be as effective as possible in your role. And we will do the best we can. Reaching out, I think you need, you need more support reaching out to get events like Open Farms Tour, but especially the Open Farms Harvest Celebration in October to get more people behind that. That education piece. Again, we're not all selling food there, but there's a great opportunity as far as overall education about how important agriculture, agri-food, the rural area is. So thank you for that, and keep up the great work, and we'll look forward to having you join us in September. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 7 on the agenda, business. Item A, Rural Economic and Community Development Update as presented Q1 and Q2. It's a report from the Director, Craig Desjardins, and it's attached. Now, under business, does anybody speak to this? Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes.
Madam Chair, through you, as you may know, the briefing was meant to provide a little more context to the report. If the committee has no further questions or comments based on the report itself, we could just move forward.
Okay, so I'll put that question to the committee. Any further questions at this point? Okay, great. We will move forward. And motions. I don't see anything under any motions at this point in time. Okay, notices of motions. Item 10, other business. Does anyone have any other business they wish to bring up at this point in time? Raise your hand or press the raise hand. John Warren, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to echo Charlie's point about the nitrogen concerns to hopefully close off Councillor Roostroff's thing. I think that there is a vocal minority that's worked up about it, but I agree with him that I don't think we need to have a meeting because most farmers are not actually concerned about this. I don't think. So I think we can just tie a knot on that and leave it, let it lie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? To the point of other business? Yes, Charlie?
Nope, nothing for me.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I guess I was thinking your hand was up. All right, then. If there's nothing else, let's go to correspondence received to the, oh, sorry, Tracy. Yes, go ahead.
That's okay. I just wanted to please, and again, clerk's office, mute me if I'm inappropriate here, but please know everybody in this committee, reach out to me anytime, please, like really important. You don't get to see me every 4 months. I'm here every day. So that's a really important piece. So please reach out anytime.
Thanks kindly. Yes. Correspondence. Any correspondence that's been received since the package was sent out that the committee needs to know about? Anybody have anything they've received they wish to bring up? Seeing none. Item 12, date of next meeting. Yes, Elizabeth, go ahead.
Madam Chair, if I just might jump in quickly here. Just based on the timing of when we were able to get this meeting together, we were going to see if the committee was agreeable to moving the September meeting to Monday, the 26th, to allow for a little bit more time to prepare for the next meeting in terms of materials that would be brought forward for the committee's consideration. And we were wondering if the committee would be agreeable to this.
Okay, thumbs up or thumbs down? I can't see your thumb, Charles.
It's somewhere. Where the hell is it?
Thumbs up. Okay, we're kind of 3 thumbs down, and which means if your thumbs down, you want to keep it to the 12th. Is that correct? Yes.
Madam Chair, can I
Rosie?
speak for a second? So
Yes.
the history of having predetermined dates was because it was being published on Quebec signs and there was some communication efforts to get people to attend these meetings. So I'm not sure in the past year how the communications efforts have been going. So I'm saying this completely out of turn, like I actually do not know. But there was a real legitimate reason for keeping meetings at a predetermined dates. And it was specifically for raising participation in the community and allowing people to follow us more in a better way. So just wanted to speak to that. And that's why I'm putting my thumb down. It's not out of availability for myself. It's just out of pre-conversations we had in the past 2 years about this.
Thanks kindly for illuminating that, Jose. That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. And considering there's a lot of things happening through the actions of our rural economic development manager, I mean, if it's doable, it's nice to keep the consistent meeting dates, which means September 12th. And I know we've had to move a lot and we haven't had quorum, but I'd really like to get back on the horse, so to speak, with this committee and get back on our regular predetermined dates. Does that seem reasonable, Elizabeth, to keep it at the 12th?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, that's not a problem. If the committee is hoping to keep it at that, we'll definitely stay with that meeting time for now, and we'll reach out to the committee to let them know about the materials for that meeting.
Thank you kindly. Thank you kindly. So the next meeting of the Rural Advisory Committee is scheduled for Monday, September 12th. Monday night at 6 p.m. Again, it will be held virtually, as is the direction until we're meeting this way until after the municipal elections. Can I have clarification on that? That there is an opportunity to start meeting in person, but only after, if it's deemed so, after the elections. Is that correct?
My understanding, it would be in the new meeting year, so that is
right.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd like to ask for a motion of adjournment. Councillor Roostroff, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good to see everyone. Thanks, Tracy. And yeah, best of luck with everything going forward, and let's support her as best we can. See you in September. That's only a month away. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.